Hello YouTube and welcome back to Fire Gaming Project. In this video I'm going to talk about all the characters that I have crowned already and also who I recommend to crown or spend your crowns on. Obviously there are only so many crowns in the game, and it also depends on when you guys started this game and how many events you guys have completed and collected the crowns from. Let's begin. But I also was inspired by this because I wanted to just give you guys the update, but also because I recently actually just recently, right before this video, I completed the current attempt of the Spiral Abyss. So do check that out as well. And at the end of that, by beating it, I was able to attribute, at least the way I see it is, I attributed that success to crowning, but also spending your time just leveling up your characters and their talents and skills, etc. Instead of trying to pull for new characters, etc. But definitely building out who we have and just making the most of it is probably better. So yeah, before we begin, make sure you guys are subscribed and make sure to hit the notification bell, hit the like button, and also leave me some comments and some questions as well. Oh, sorry, something's in my throat. Give me one sec here. All right, sorry about that. So anyway, so here we go. There are only, as of right now, as of 2.2, which is where we are right now, at the time of publishing this, there are only a total of 15 crowns obtainable from events and also the Sakura tree currently in Inazuma, etc. I've been playing since the end of 1.0, early 1.1 till now, so I have all the crowns because the crowns were only introduced, I think, in 1.1 onward, I believe. So I was lucky. I didn't miss any from 1.0. But I know that for those of you who are newer to the game, or maybe more casual players, right, where you're not doing every event, and that's okay, right? Then this video is just to give you an idea of where you could spend your crowns for and which characters are likely to be, crownable, let's say, or more suggested to be crowned. Of course, everyone has a different character roster as well, so we have to take that into consideration. But I do have all the characters except for Toma. He never came home to me because I didn't get him on my recent polls on the Hutao banner to get her constellation. So, oh well. But I have all the characters except for Toma. And I have all the crowns as well. So that's why this would be a very comprehensive crowning video, because let's just put it out there, Toma does not deserve to be crowned unless you love him and you're fangirling or fanboying over him. But he does not deserve to be crowned, so it doesn't matter that I don't have him. So there we go. None of his skills deserve to be crowned. So that one's out of the way. But I'm not gonna go through all 41 or 42 characters. I'm not going to go through like that. I'm going to go through only the not even all the because some characters I double crowned, right? So just for the starters, I did not triple crown any character yet. So at most they only got 2 crowns, and at the minimum they got 1 crown, and definitely a lot of them have 0. So let's begin. Okay, so I'm going to go through it kind of quick because I don't want to spend too long on this video, but I do want to address certain situations, but I do want to also go over certain characters that could potentially be crowned in the future as well on my account, and also that you guys may have, so that I will go through technically all the characters in that aspect. But let's focus on the characters that I did crown first, the first where I spent all 15. So let's start there. Okay, so as you can see on the screen, I have Zhang Li, and I crowned his alt because for me, I use him. I do use him as a sub DPS, so I do appreciate having his alt to be crowned because it gives extra damage. Obviously, it's actually 900% skill damage, so it's pretty high, I did not bother crowning. Sorry, I did not bother crowning his E skill because it's just really for shielding purposes, and the pillars don't really do much damage technically, so it doesn't matter. Even if you were to crown it, it's not going to do that much more anyway. So there's no point wasting a crown here. So constellations aside, because I did get +3, as you can see, that's aside, right? I didn't bother crowning his normal attack, although I do use him as a sub DPS, but up to level 9, it's pretty good already. Okay, so that's number 1 crown is there. Raiden Shogun, I have crowned her twice, and you guys who have followed me have seen that I did that video as well, where I double crowned her and I used her, in some, what did I do with her? I used her basically after I double crowned her, and I did a quick, I did a review of her, that's what I did. Yes, so do check that video out. That was a few weeks ago, I think. Yeah, so I didn't crown her normal attack, although her normal attack is actually very strong. Look at the multipliers, they're in the 70s to the 90s. So it's pretty good, and then the ones afterwards are over 100, of course. So they're not bad, and if you were to crown them, it would go even a little bit higher. So that's not bad, right? But that could be for the future. That's fine. But I do use her normal attack, just so we're clear. I do use her as a DPS slash sub DPS. So I wouldn't mind crowning her here, but I want to spread it around a little bit. That's why I didn't want to put too many. That's why I'm only willing to do 2 per character maximum. So I crowned her E because this is or I think to me, this is her most useful skill in terms of like if you were to support your team. And then her ult, obviously, because her ult has a lot of damage, crazy damage, 852, right? Come on. So yeah, I crowned here. So this is crowns number 2 and number 3 on my account. So here we go. The third character in line here, Kazuha, my boy. I actually just crowned him earlier today for his ult. And then I previously had crowned his E, and I did a video review of Kazuha already, and at that point he already had his E crowned. So do check that video out as well. But now he's double crowned as of today. And I had just crowned him right before I attempted to do the Abyss, and I can tell you that it totally helped out, okay? So yeah, it doesn't hurt, right? Definitely I do use him a lot, so I will consider bringing his normal attack up to level 9, but that's not anytime soon right now. I'm out of Aztaha pieces right now, so I have to wait anyway. Because I've been spending a lot of my resources and my time playing this game, even though I haven't been playing as much, to really just focus on making my existing characters better. Yeah, and I feel like talents and crowns is one way and a very direct way to get them stronger. Of course, you can refarm artifacts if you want to. Of course, you can get better weapons if you want to. But talents are with the character forever, right? So might as well invest in that too. Okay, and that's something I can just do like weekly. So why not? Okay. So anyway, I like using his E a lot, so that's why I crowned this first. And definitely his ult is very good. It has a very good air AOE, and the damage is good. So it's good to, and the swirling obviously. So definitely this is worth crowning these two. So he is so for this character, he brings me up to crown number 4 and number 5. So he's the only other second character that I've double crowned. Okay, we're gonna skip Aloy because she does not deserve to be crowned. I'm just gonna make that very clear, even though she's free to everybody, but she does not deserve to be crowned in any way. But if you were to crown her, I would only crown her ult. Okay, that's the only one. Okay? Because I understand not everyone has all the characters, so that's fair. So if you have, your crowns and you're willing to spend it on her and you really like her from her original exclusive game, Horizon Zero Dawn or whatnot, then yeah, sure, you can crown, but crown her ult only, because the other two are not necessary. Venti. Now, I stopped using this character, but I did use him in my Abyss runs, because he can, suck the mobs together, obviously, right? If you were to crown him, I would suggest only crowning his ult as well, because that's basically his one-trick pony magical attempt, basically. So you can also consider crowning his E, but that's only if you plan to use that often. That's why I haven't really decided on this, so I have not crowned either of them yet. But if you were to, then yes, the ult would be your focus. So again, I'm only, as of right now, just a quick summary, I'm only up to 5 crowns spent, okay, as a quick summary for anyone joining in. Zhang Li has 1. Raiden Shogun has 2, and Kazuha has 2, Aloy has 0, Venti has 0. Next, we're bringing up my girl Jean. She was one of my first free characters that I got when I got my free polls as a new player when I first started. So I crowned her ult because of the healing. It's also 903%. It's pretty much up there like with Zhang Li's. So it's strong, obviously. It has a swirl effect to it because she is Animo. Her E is also very strong, but I feel like the E, because it's like a one-time hit really, unless you're using her to suck them in and hold onto them and then throw them up for throw damage or drop damage, that's fine. But then, yeah, so it's up to you how you want to use her, but I would recommend, if you were to, I would recommend crowning her ult because it has a giant AoE as well. I do enjoy using this character. I do use her as a DPS and sub DPS. So, and she's also an awesome healer. She's a very balanced character. I haven't done an official review of her yet, so I will stay tuned for that. Coming soon in the next week or so. And she's on my schedule. And anyway, yeah, but yeah, if you love this character, you should totally go all out and crown her other skills as well. But I recommend focusing on the ult first. So she has my crown number 6, if we're doing it consecutively or consequentially, moving along the line at the top. Okay, Eula is my other girl that I really love, and I crowned her ult because her ult has the explosion damage for her light sword, right? The other one that you could consider crowning is her E, because her E is like a mini explosion light sword, so I definitely think that that's good, and that's fine. I would totally consider that if I had more crowns, I would. So, but yeah, and then she's definitely really strong as a DPS and sub DPS, so I would definitely be okay with it if people were to crown her normal attack as well. That's fine. Depends on if you guys like her or not, or like using her or not. Again, that's just a rule that you follow based on like if you like them or not, if you use certain skills or not, and how you use them, etc., and how you interplay them with your team. Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, so my Eula has my crown number 7. Ganyu is a really awesome character. However, I did not crown her. And you might be thinking, why wouldn't I? Because I actually turns out that I stopped using her for a while now. I only use her in certain niche situations now, and because of that reason, I wanted to save my crowns for other characters. But as you'll know, as my other characters have been crowned, then obviously she would be in line to get crowned at some point. Just not in the first, let's say, 15 crowns right now that are available. So I do recommend crowning her, but not right away. If I was to crown her, though, I would crown her normal attack because that includes her charged attack. Obviously, that's the bulk of her damage. And secondarily, I would crown her alt, okay? I would not bother crowning her E, but I would crown her alt as well. Yeah, because it has good AoE, right? But so she does not have any of my crowns, right? So right now I'm just counting out mentally as well. So because I'm not scripting this, I'm just talking out loud. So like up to Eula, I had 7. So we're going along the line. Ayaka, I love this girl. I just used her. She was definitely very useful in my Abyss runs in my recent attempts, right? So definitely I recommend crowning her. If you were to crown this girl, where would you place them? I placed my crown number 8 on her alt. Okay, because her alt is the bulk of her damage, even though the rate looks very low there, the multipliers, but it is still strong. And with cryo, and if you can get like your build good with her artifacts and all that stuff, she is super strong, right? So she has my crown number 8. If you were to crown her E, I would be okay with that because it is still strong too. It has a mini AoE. It definitely can still freeze and damage, but then I think bringing the E up to 9 is good enough. If you really like using her on the field, and I love using sword users, one-handed sword users, I wouldn't mind crowning her normal attack either. But that would be for the future, and it's not a priority right now. Okay? So that's that. I don't enjoy using Mona. Again, this might be an unpopular opinion, so I will not crown her. If you were to crown her, though, her Omen, this one, the bubble or whatever, is basically her alt. That's what you should crown. You should skip crowning her E altogether because it's just a taunt. For any of the taunting moves for any of the characters, just skip. Don't crown that. And then if you do enjoy using her and you use her as a DPS and you throw out her normal attacks a lot, then you can consider crowning this too. But I would only suggest crowning her E. Her burst, her Q. If you were to crown her, but I didn't. So right now, as of right now, we're just talking out loud again. I only have 8 crowns used so far out of 15. Moving along, Child. Child, you guys would have known that he's one of my most beloved characters. Had him since pretty much the beginning. Since 1.1 onward, basically, after Klee. So yeah, I've double crowned him, and that was only a very recent thing, right before his event recently, the Labyrinth Warriors. So I crowned his E first because I love his melee stance. That's the main thing. And as I've talked about it, like basically his melee stance, all the attacks are here already. So definitely that's my max. And then his ult is still strong too, 835% damage. It's pretty good. Excuse me. I'm gonna cough. Give me one sec. Okay, sorry, when I talk too fast or talk too much, sometimes I end up like coughing. Anyway, so then I coughed off the mic, so anyway, so I gave him 2 crowns here, so he brings me up to crowns number 9 and crown number 10. I did not crown his normal attack because I don't use it. I don't even think you should even bring it up to like as high as I brought it up. I brought it up to 8. He gives himself 1 extra level. That's why it's 9. If you don't use his normal attack, you just leave it at 6. That's okay because the melee stance has its own multipliers for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits. You see, it's not like the other characters. Some characters where their E infuses the normal, then you would go back to the normal to crown that instead if that was the case. But no, I use him only for the melee, as you see in my videos. So that's why that was my first one to crown. But then I also feel that his alt has high damage and also high AoE, obviously, and high Hydra application. So that is very important. So I'm okay with crowning that. So he has my 9th and 10th crowns. Yoymia. This one may be a little contentious. I really enjoy using Yoymia. I like fast hack and slash gameplay. I like simple gameplay. I'm on PS5, as you guys know. I don't like bow characters overall, unless they have some kind of gimmick that makes me like them, and I like her gimmick. I like her normal attack. I like just spamming the button after you infuse them with pyro. So I crowned her normal attack, and I literally crowned this yesterday so that I could bring her into the abyss today when I made that video. right? So, because I also plan to make this video right after, that's why, right? So I have my schedule of videos, obviously, and I'm okay with crowning her. Now I know it's contentious because not everyone pulled for her, and not everyone thinks that she's that strong, right? But for those of you who like her, you'll see why I crowned her here, because this is a situation where I just talked about, similar to, she's very similar to Child, but however, her E does not have its own 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like the hit damage. So the E only infuses the normal attack. Hence, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is here. That's why you have to crown this one if you were to crown. Now, her burst is very contentious, and I think it's widely known that it's not that strong, as you can see, and it's also not that useful, to be very honest. So I don't even know if I would even bother bringing this up further. But if I had more and I had nothing else to do, I would bring it up to 9. Why not? Because I do enjoy this character. Yeah, but I would not recommend crowning this or the E. If you were to crown this character, you could focus on the normal attack, or just don't crown her at all. You can leave it up to like 888 or 998 or whatever, or 996 even, up to you, right? Yeah. So I can see this one being one where it's not required that you have to crown her, but I did, right? So she has my crown 11 out of 15. Hutao, my other most beloved character. As you guys know, I love her so much that even though I was trying to reduce my spending on this game, I had to go and pull for some constellations. Now, they're completely not necessary, just so we're clear, but I'm willing to because I like her. Okay, so I crowned her normal attack because I used her specifically and primarily for her charged attack. So similar to what we just talked about for Child and Yoymia, her E will infuse her normal attack, whereas for Child it doesn't infuse a normal attack, it's just its own set of multipliers, so that's why, right? But for her, it's the same as Yoymia then. Her E doesn't have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 listed there, it's listed here. So that's why you would not crown this, but you would crown this, the normal attack, if you were to crown. However, if this still has good damage too, so you could consider this, but I wouldn't, because it's just technically bonus damage for the blood blossoms and stuff like that. So for me, bringing it up to 8 or 9 is good enough. Definitely, the other one I really want to crown, but I don't have any more now, is her alt, and I would totally want to crown her alt at some point as well. It is very strong as well, similar to Child's alt. It is a big AOE as well, and it applies pyro, and you can do reactions with it, of course. So that would be another one to crown as well. But right now, yeah, that's all that I did. So right now, what number am I up to? Oh my god, I kind of forgot now. Was I up to 10 or 11 or 12? Let me see. Hang on. Sorry, let's just think of this as a really quick. See, I didn't write this down. Okay, 1 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. 12 and 13. There we go. Sorry. So Hutao has my 12th and my 13th crown out of 15. There we go. Okay. I see. Okay. So Klee is my baby girl. I love her. She's like my daughter. I did not crown her yet because I stopped using her, but I have used her heavily in the early game, mid game, and the early late game. Basically, even around AR 50-ish, I was still using her. So, but unfortunately, I wasn't spending my crowns at that time. So now that I'm in late game, basically, AR 58 onward, I have not used her anymore, so I have decided not to crown her at this time, but she would be on the list for a future crowning. If I was to crown her, where would I put it? I would put on her normal attack, because that's where her damage comes from. It's her normal and charge attack. So I would focus on this. Her Jumpty Dumpty is also very powerful, but I don't think that you need to, because it's not guaranteed either, because she throws those little bombs, but it's not guaranteed that they're all going to hit, right? Whereas this is guaranteed because you walk around with her and you hit them, right? So this one you should crown. You should probably bring this up to 8 or 9, and this one 8 or 9. The other thing with her alt is that it's random. You can't control where it hits either, so I wouldn't crown it either. Yeah. Okay, so we're still at 13 out of 15. Bennett. Bennett is our S tier or double S tier, whatever ranking you want to give him, 4-star character that you have to have, obviously, right? He's in the Paimon shop right now for those of you who don't have him, and I did that Paimon shop reset video as well, discussing this. But regardless, I crowned his alt, obviously, because his alt gives his buff for healing and buff for attack, for your team. So duh. Yeah, I would not recommend crowning his normal attack because you wouldn't even use him for that. I can see some people maybe wanting to crown his E, but I wouldn't recommend it either. I would just bring this up as high as you want it to be. So right now I have it at 8 plus 3 levels, so 11. So 9 could be okay. I would consider investing this up to 9, but I would never put any more on his normal attack. Yeah. Okay, so he has my 14th out of 15th crown. My very last crown is obviously my baby girl, Xiangling. I know that she is one of the strongest characters in the game. I'm sure many of you guys know that, actually. So definitely I recommend giving her a crown on her alt, her Pyronado. You don't need to crown her Global Bear unless you really love him, especially after that that anniversary event basically, but after the Moon Chase event. But I would recommend, yeah, crowning her alt for sure. You can skip crowning her normal attack unless you do use that, but I would just suggest bringing this as high as you want it to be. I haven't even brought it that high. I just left it at 7 because I only use her for these two and I swap her out, right? Just because I need her to apply the pyro. I would be willing to bring Goba Bear up to level 9, or in this case 12. That's okay. Yeah. So that's my 15 crowns right there. I don't want to spend too much more time, but I'll quickly go through the rest of the other characters really quickly. Ning Guang, if you were to crown her, you should crown her alt and her normal attack if you wanted to, okay? If you love her. For Sucrose, you should crown her alt and her E if you wanted to. Xing Chu, you should crown his alt first and E if you wanted to. Chi Chi, you can skip crowning. Albedo, you can skip crowning. Xiao, you should crown his alt. And possibly his normal attack because it has a plunge aspect to it. And then the E would be a last priority. If you love him, sure, crown him. But I will not be crowning him, so I will be skipping that. Kacheng, if you love her, you should crown her alt. And if you really use her a lot as a DPS, you can crown her normal attack. I can see that. The E you don't need to crown. Yeah. Okay, D-Luke, I recommend crowning the E and the alt. Okay, you can skip crowning the normal attack if you were to crown. Kaya, if you do use him, you should crown the alt. For the E, it's very temporary. It's like a one hit, kind of one time hit, basically in front only, right? You know, I wouldn't bother crowning this. I would bring it as high as you want it to be, but that's it. Of course, if you use him as a DPS, you could crown his normal attack too, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would just recommend crowning his alt, but you don't need to bring it up to a crowning level either. Just bring it as high as you're willing to. But I don't know that many people still use Kaya that much in the late game, but he's a really strong character and he is coming back in the shop reset for December 2021. So stay tuned for that. Yen Fei, she's like a Klee, obviously, a 4-star version. I did a review of her. I've done a review of most of the characters already, but there's still more to come, so stay tuned. But yeah, if you were to crown her, you should focus on her normal attack and her alt. You can skip her E for crowning. Yeah, so we'll leave it at that, because I'm trying to do this quick. Kokomi, you should not spend any more resources on her. You should not even pull this character. Skip her. I hate her. Yeah, I hate her as a character that I had to pay for, but I don't mind her character design. I've already talked about this, so we're skipping. Sayu, you would not need to crown this character. She's a total support character. Just skip it. Don't bother. Rosaria, if you like using her, you should, and if you do use her as a DPS, you can crown her for her alt for sure, or sub DPS. You can crown her for her E if you really wanted to, but you don't need to. And definitely you don't need to crown her for her normal attack, but if you do use her that way, it's okay. Yeah, but definitely her alt is her priority. Diona, don't spend any crowns here. Skip it for crowning because she's a complete support character. Chong Yun, now he actually I really like. I'm actually going to try to bring him up more in the future. So I really like him, and this is going to be a placeholder here. I will crown him for his, in the future, I will crown him for his alt, and I will consider crowning his E, but his E doesn't really do much except for just apply like an area of effect, basically, and a little bit of damage. So I would only probably crown his alt. I don't mind using his normal attack, but I can just bring his normal attack and his E up as high as possible, maybe to level 8, maybe level 9, but I wouldn't like crown them. I would only crown his alt. Yeah. Kujosara, I'm going to do an updated review of her. In my original review, it's pretty much not going to change my opinion of her, but I will do an updated one of her. But anyway, regardless, I don't like this character. I prefer Bennett over her. I know that she can still attack buff, that's fine. And I know she's a good battery for Raiden Shogun, that's fine. So nothing wrong with her. But then, like, I don't think she's worth crowning. She's very support. I don't use her in any other role other than to support Electro or to, like, maybe give an attack buff here and there. So I don't recommend spending any crowns for her. If you were to crown her, though, you could crown her alt, and that would be that. You maybe alt, maybe E, because this gives you the attack bonus, right? So I can see that, but or you can just bring it up as high as possible with up to level 9, which is also 12 if you get her to C6, right? And then that should be okay too, right? For the maximum attack bonus buff for the E and maximum damage for the Q, right? I would not bother with her normal attack. Fischl, very similar to Kujosara. I would, actually in this case, I would crown her E first and then her alt. Basically, both are basically odd summons, so you would want to crown them both eventually. If you really enjoy using this character, you can skip the E, skip the normal attack, unless you do use her that way a lot. But yeah, if you were to, you could do that. I don't plan to crown her though. I would bring her up a little bit, but I don't plan to. But then technically, I don't really use her much anymore either, so I don't want to invest any more resources there either. So there's that too. Remember, you have to play with that situation situation of managing your resources too, right? Obviously, I have all the characters minus Toma, right? So I have to spread my resources out more strategically. But for people, I understand people that don't have, or players that don't have all the characters, then you have different choices than I have to make, right? You know, and also not everyone has all the crowns, whereas I got all the crowns luckily because I've been playing since near the beginning. Beidou, I actually don't like using her because she's very clunky and slow for me, but she is a very strong character, just so we're clear, and I do like her storyline. If you were to crown her, you should crown her alt. I can see her E being useful because of the counter attack slash shielding effect. But then, like, I wouldn't crown this. I wouldn't crown her normal attack unless you enjoy using her that way. If you were to crown, I would only crown for the alt. That's it. But even then, I wouldn't. So I would only bring her up as high as possible if I was to use her. Lisa, you can skip altogether. But I do enjoy using this character because she's actually growing on me. Because I got her to C5 recently, as I talked about. Because I got her from the Paimon shop this month, and also previously in the early game I did get a few copies of her in the standard banner, so that's why, because I have her at higher constellation, so she's a little bit better in that sense. So I would not recommend crowning this character, but if you were to crown this character, you could consider crowning her alt for sure. Maybe her E, because it does do good damage too, and maybe her normal attack if you do use her enough for her normal and her charge attack. Xinyan, I actually do like this character, and although I wouldn't recommend crowning her, I would suggest you could crown her alt. And her shield is okay, but it's not like the strongest. There are better shields out there. But if you do enjoy using her and her shield, you could consider that too. But I would recommend crowning her alt, or just bring her up to as high as possible, like level 9, and that's good enough. So in this case, it would be 12 for me. So here I only have her at 777. So yeah, it's fine. I don't recommend spending any crowns on the Traveler and any one of his or her forms, Aether or Lumine, whether it's Animo, Geo, or Electro. I would skip crowning him altogether, him or her altogether for any of the skills because there are better characters. I don't enjoy using Razor, that's why he's not going to be raised on my account. Oh, sorry, let me just be fair here then. So just to be consistent, so if I was to recommend crowning the Traveler, which skills would I crown? I would then crown the normal attack, not as a priority though, and the alts in whichever form you have him as, Animo, Geo, or Electro, okay? I wouldn't bother so much with the E, so that's that. Razor, I don't like using him, and I don't plan to use him, but anyway, you can crown his alt, maybe his E if you do use him, but alt is probably where you should focus. Barbara, I would skip crowning altogether. She's a complete support character. Oops, I went out. And then, sorry, the last two characters, Noelle. Noelle, basically, I would not crown her at all, but unless you enjoy using her, then you should crown her her alt here, and also because her alt is where the main damage comes from. This is just shield, right? So I wouldn't bother crowning that. I would crown maybe her normal attack if you were enjoying to use this character a lot, okay? But definitely her alt. I don't plan to use her or level her up, so I'm not going to. And lastly, Amber. Unfortunately, she's the character that has been, falling by the wayside. Only early game players would be using her. You should just focus on crowning her alt if you were to crown, but I would, in this case, just say, save your crowns for other characters. You should just skip all of hers altogether. Unfortunately, she doesn't have high multipliers. She can be good if you C6 her and, like, obviously build her up, but then there are other still better bow characters and better pyro characters out there. So I wouldn't suggest it, but it's up to you. If you really enjoy her and she is still cute and lovely, you can still crown her alt, okay? So anyway, that's all the characters there in a nutshell. So those are my 15 that I crowned, and which ones would you guys crown, or do you guys agree? Which skills, characters would you crown or would you not crown? Leave them in the comments, please. And please feel free to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and leave your comments and questions in the video slot below. And I'll